Welcome to our session about driving alerts and actions on your data. I'm Lars, and
I'm James.
We have a short agenda. It's going to be a lot of demo here in the end. We're just going to give a short introduction to who we are. Then I'm going to talk to you how and why you want to make data more actionable. And finally, we're going to dive into what is Data Activator. How many in here has worked with Data Activator already? A few. That's good. Then you will learn something new today. So we'll start with you, James.
James Hutton. I'm a product manager. I work on the Data Activator team. I joined Microsoft 2 years ago, almost to the day. And at that point, Data Activator had just been greenlit. The concept had been approved by senior management. And I joined just as we actually started building it. So everything you see today is basically, it's been 2 years in the making since I joined. And I'm based in Microsoft's London office in Paddington, where we have an engineering team that works on Data Activator.
Yeah, and I'm Lars. I've been with Microsoft for a little more than 10 years. The first 7.5 years, I was a salesperson at Microsoft Denmark, and then I was lucky to get an opportunity to join what is today called Fabric Customer Advisory Team, but 2.5 years ago it was a Power BI Customer Advisory Team in September 2021. So today I'm working with a lot of the feature PMs like James, and I work a lot with customers in Scandinavia. So how to make data more actionable? I think everyone in here is probably producing and maybe also using content reports. So back in the old days, or maybe still today for a lot of organizations, especially finance, it's all about a lot of spreadsheets, and you look at those and you get insights into some data. But there's a lot of data in here, and it can be difficult to see what's actually important, what do you need to act on, and what do you need to do. Then it has advanced a little, let's say that, to have reports like this, like good old school reporting services reports or paginated reports, which is a little more fun to look at than raw data in Excel. It can also be Power BI dashboards like this, or some more visual reports like this. Everything here is good, and it serves a purpose, and it's being used across the world a lot, many times a day. And if you're advanced with Power BI today, then you may even use the alerting capability in Power BI. I don't know how many in here has used this alerting capability in Power BI. Yeah, just a few of you. So those of you who don't know about it, it's the dashboarding capability in Power BI, where you can, on selected visuals, go in and define an alert. And then if it goes, as it says here, above or below a threshold, then you'll get an alert. And that alert can be an alert in Power BI, or it can be an email. Not very advanced, but it does make you a little more action-driven, I think, the speakers here. So how are you actually driving action from your data? So when you're looking at a report, then you're actually doing 3 things, at least when you're acting on it as well. And you may not recognize what you're actually doing, but that's where that is actually 3 steps you're going through. So you're monitoring, you're looking at the numbers or the visuals on the report, and then you detect that something is good or bad, something that you need to act on. So these 3 steps is kind of the process you go through without thinking about it. So if you see that the sales numbers are too low for a certain sales manager, then you're acting, then you may want to call him and say, what's going on? Go out and sell some more. So if you look at a report like this, then first of all, it can take a while being manually going through a list like this. And I know this is also just as an example. If it was a chart, it would probably be much easier. But you can relatively easy go through this and see we have for this particular line row of data, then we see that the sales are lower than the other regions and the other products. And when you do that, then you see here that the unit sold is lower than expected, and do something. And this do something, that could be whatever process you have in your organization, but it's something that you need to do manually. If it's send an email to the category manager who owns this category, or send an email to a salesperson, or log a ticket in your CRM system, or whatever you have to do. It's all manual that you have to do it, and you basically have to do this every time. So if you go through this report and you see a number of actions, then you will actually have a lot of manual steps to go through. So a few examples here that we have learned, mainly James and his team has learned when talking to customers when building Data Activator. It's questions like, if you are in finance, you may have a lot of data in your data warehouse and get some invoices, and you would like to be able to automatically detect and alert when payment is overdue for invoices. That's something that is being done on a daily basis for finance departments. It could also be shipment, that you would like to be able to notify your recipient of some goods if the shipment is delayed. Or if you are in retail, if there's a freezer that we see where the temperature is too high, then you would need a warning of somehow. So how can you actually drive this action on your data? So what I've been through here now is that in most cases today, this is, especially if we look at the reporting from warehousing or data that is streamed in, that's a manual process. And doing this manually does not scale, at least not for large organizations. So if you are a one-man army and send out 2 invoices every month, then you can easily detect if they are overdue or not. But if you are a large organization and send out thousands of invoices on a daily basis, well, then you just don't have the options to go through all in detail. So what you want to do is you want to automate this. And you can do that today with code, which works, but it's normally very expensive. It's not very, very agile, because you have to develop some solutions that are tailored for the specific purpose. So what you want to do is you would like to have a no-code solution where the business analysts, the business people who are actually working with the data, can go in and do something and get this alerting automatically, so that they can build solutions and get more valuable out of the data without having to spend a lot of time looking manually through reports. So a few examples here of the same data of what you may want to do. So if you have a request here, I would like to get an alert when the temperature exceeds 32 Fahrenheit. Then we have this nice little chart, and in this case you can see all these red dots. So you would get an alert, or you would need to act every time this is happening. That works fine, and it may be a pattern you like, but getting a notification every time that the temperature is above 32 degrees, that may not be very useful, because that could happen many times throughout the day. So instead, you may instead want to have an alert when the temperature crosses above 32 degrees, and then if it goes below again and above again, you want like another alert. And in that case, you see the same pattern here. It's the exact same data, but in this case, you only get 5 notifications. A little more advanced example is that if you are crossing above something and you are staying above here, saying if the temperature is above 32 degrees for more than 15 minutes, then we need to act on it, because then it's important. Then we need to fix something, call a technician or whatever. And in that case, you will, with the exact same data coming in, you will get even fewer alerts. And the final example here is that if something is happening a number of times, so in this case, 3 times in an hour, if the temperature is above 32 degrees, then we would like to get a notification, because the business rules are, or the rules around this freezer is that then we need to act on it. And in that case, again, the exact same data, but here we will only get 1 alert. So all of these 4 examples here now is with a freezer, but but that is something that people actually need to do in some industries on a daily basis. And if you don't have any way to do this automatically, then it's a lot of hard work. And that is why we have built Data Activator.
All right, so what is Data Activator? Well, the first thing you need to know is that it's part of Fabric. It's one of the experiences that you can select in the bottom left of your screen. It's in public preview at the moment. That's been in preview since October. And what that means is you can try it out today for free. It's not going to count towards your capacity usage, so give it a go and try it out. Let's just talk a little bit about how Data Activator goes towards meeting some of the challenges that Lars was talking about. So Lars was talking about the need to go from manual, time-consuming monitoring of reports to automated actions on data through a no-code experience. That's what Data Activator is all about. And what we think is needed in the market to get there is what we call a system of detection, right? So if you think about all of your data that's stored in your data lakes and data warehouses and your Power BI models, we can think of that as your systems of intelligence. And then think about where you need to take action on that data in your business. Now, very often, you just want to send an email or a Teams message to someone to take action on that data. So it could just be a case of converting that data into alerts when things need to happen. Hey, Fred in accounts, please go and phone up this customer who's late on their invoice payment, for example. But it could also be logging a ticket in a ticketing system. It could also be driving actions within operational systems. One thing we're looking at with Data Activator, we can talk a bit about it in detail later, but is also automating actions around your data refreshes. Perhaps if a refresh fails 3 times in a row, for example, you then want to take some remedial action. And you want to automate that by scheduling another refresh automatically when that happens. So it could be that type of action as well. But there's this general pattern where you want to convert data in your systems of intelligence to actions in your systems of action. And so what Data Activator is it's a system that sits in between the two. We call it a system of detection that can look for patterns in your data and then automatically convert that into actions. And the target user for Data Activator is what we call a business analyst. So the idea is someone in your organization who knows what rules need to be implemented based on your data, but who is non-technical, who needs that no-code experience in order to encode those rules into your system. That's our target user for Data Activator. Okay, and so the concept is this. There's going to be one place within Fabric where you can trigger actions on your data. So as of today, the data sources that Data Activator works on is Power BI data stored in models and also real-time streaming data coming in from event streams. But we're going to be expanding this out over the coming months to work with many more sources of data as well. We've got a KQL source in the works as I speak. And I mentioned earlier as well that we're also now looking at Fabric automation as well. So picture an event stream that's got all of your Power BI refreshes, for example, as a series of events. You might want to define rules that operate on those events. And so the idea is, in time, we'll expand this out to include virtually all of the data that's available in Fabric, accessible as event streams. And then what Data Activator does is it operates on those changes in your data, in your event streams, through a series of rules, which you can define through a no-code experience. You then define triggers, which activate when those rules are met, and then you convert those rules into actions. And that could just be a Teams alert or an email message. We've also got a connector to Power Automate, so you can trigger a Power Automate flow when rules are met. Okay, so that's the background. I'm going to show you a demo now. So hopefully this is a familiar sight to much of this audience. You'll be aware, most of you, that in London there are, I don't know if we call them Boris bikes anymore. Do we call them Boris bikes still? I don't know, bikes. TfL has an open API that anyone can connect to that will tell you in real time in every one of the 800 docking stations in London, how many bicycles are available in that docking station. So what we've done is we've plugged Data Activator into that API, and we're going to see how we can build some alerts off that data stream. So if I could just have it switched to my laptop, fantastic. All right, now I was in a state of stress immediately before this demo because it was not working on the conference Wi-Fi. This is currently tethered to my phone. It seemed to be working, so fingers crossed this actually goes. So let's have a look, see at what we can see inside Data Activator. So I've already made this Data Activator artifact, and you can see it's already hooked up to the API. I can talk a little bit about how that actually works under the hood later, but you can see the crucial thing is we've got these events flowing through, and every event is telling me for a given docking station how many bicycles are available right now in that docking station. You can see we're getting about 2 events a second. Every time someone returns a bike or every time someone picks up a bike, I get an event, and it tells me for this docking station there are 16 bikes there, and 15 now, and 8 slots still available. Okay, so we can imagine I might be a manager at TfL. I'm keen to make sure that all of my docking stations have enough bicycles available, but I'm also keen to make sure that they've got enough empty slots available so that people can actually return bikes. So I want to try and keep my docking stations, let's say, about 3/4 full, for example. And let's see how I might be able to use Data Activator to manage these docking stations. So you can see it's asking me here to assign my data to what we call a Data Activator object. So I'm going to, remember Lars talked at the start about this need to monitor business objects. So with Data Activator, you have to decide what is the business object that you're looking to monitor. So in this case, it's a docking station. So I'm going to call my object a docking station. And then it's asking me, well, what is the ID? What is the property on your event stream that identifies that docking station? So in this case, it's the bike point ID column that's coming from the API. And then it's saying, well, which properties are you interested in this event stream? So I'm interested in, crucially, the number of bikes, the number of empty docks, the neighborhood in the street. Okay, looking good. So now I'm going to save that, and I'm going to go to design mode, where I can now operate on a Data Activator model of this data. So you can see I've got this docking station object now, and if I click on the number of bikes property in my object, you can see it's immediately giving me this nice little chart, which is showing me a graph over time of how many bicycles are available. It's randomly picked 5 docking stations, and it's just generated this little chart here, which is showing me how many bicycles are available. Well, remember, I'm a manager at TfL, so what I want to do is to make a trigger which is going to alert me if a docking station doesn't have enough bikes in it. So I'm going to click this new trigger button, and that's going to start the process of creating a trigger. So I want to know if there are not enough bikes available in docking station. Okay, let's build up this trigger. Now, first thing it's asking me to do is to select a property to operate on in my stream. So I'm interested in the number of available bikes in this docking station that we've already looked at. And it's saying, well, what condition do you want to detect on this property? So in this case, I just want to know if the number of bikes in a docking station becomes less than, let's say, 5. And I want to get a notification each time this happens. And so what this is starting to do is now to build up the trigger logic, and hopefully in just a second we're going to see some information. So what you can see here is it's giving me this chart showing historically how often this rule would have fired on the data that's available in my stream. And then it's asking me, well, what do you want to do if this rule fires? Well, I can choose between sending an email or sending a Teams message, and then we've got this custom action option here, which is going to enable me to trigger a Power Automate flow. So let's just keep it simple. Let's just send an email, and let's just say the subject is not enough bikes in docking station, that's going to generate an email now every time the number of bikes in any one of those 800 docking stations drops below 5. Okay, but remember, Lars was talking earlier about detecting more complicated patterns over time, and really this is at the core of what Data Activator does. It's about detecting patterns in your data. So let's think about some slightly more complicated rules that we might want to have on this data. Maybe what I want is I'm not just interested in if it becomes less than 5, because maybe someone goes and returns a bike straight away, and then in which case it's no problem. What I'm really interested in is it becomes less than 5 and it stays less than 5 for, let's say, an hour. Okay, so now we've got a docking station which has not had enough bikes in it for at least an hour. And now I want to act when that happens. Perhaps I also want to filter my data. Maybe I'm a manager of a particular neighborhood. Let's say I manage the Belgravia neighborhood. I can now say I just want to filter this by bikes that are in Belgravia, for example. So you can see here, just in the space of a few clicks, I've now built up a fairly complicated rule. Alert me if the number of bikes in any one of those 800 docking stations becomes less than 5 and stays under 5 for an hour, and that bike station is in Belgravia. Okay. Some of the other things that we've got in here is I want to know if it decreases at a particular rate. So maybe what I'm interested in is, hey, this looks like a very popular docking station. Lots and lots of people are hiring bikes from this particular docking station. They're taking bikes out at a rate of, say, 5 bikes an hour, for example. So in this case, I can have a decreases by rule. So I can say, tell me if it decreases by 5 over the period of an hour. So in other words, now my alert is saying, hey, alert me if the rate at which people are hiring bikes from this docking station is at the rate of 5 an hour, then I want to get an alert. Okay, so I hope this is giving you a sense of the types of patterns that you can detect with Data Activator, and what we mean by this no-code way of building up actions off data. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Lars now, who's going to show you our integration with Power BI.
Yeah, and before I do that, what James just showed you, this is the event stream coming in, and we didn't show you how it actually comes in. But what's important if you start working with this is that here in the top, first, you, of course, want to save it as this is a start button here. So if you have created a nice rules and you're sitting here patiently waiting for emails coming in and nothing is happening, well, that may be because you have created a number of triggers, but you have not started them. So if you go home and start playing with this, that's pretty important that it started, because it's not doing anything if it's not started. So I've tried that a number of times. So that's yeah, a little difficult. So what I'm going to show you now is a Power BI report based on the same bike data, where for, let's say, a more normal consumer with access to a Power BI report, how you can actually create an alert easily, and in this case, get an email notification or Teams notification. And then we're going to take a look at how to set up Power Automate as well in the next demo. So this is basically the same data. It's not streaming in here, but it's from another source, but it really doesn't matter, but it's the same data. So I can select different neighborhoods in here. So depending on what I would like to look at. So if I take Chelsea, for instance, then I can, on my visual, and today we support, yeah, is it all visuals?
It's we have 95% coverage. Yep.
So if you go to the 3 dots, there's also a set alert on the ribbon here. So if I click this one, then it will select, I think it's selecting a random visual, and in this case, it's selecting a slicer, and we don't really have any data in my slicer. So in this case, I can click on this visual, and then that's the one that we are using. And you can also click on the 3 dots on the visual, and then click Set an Alert. And when you do that, and I selected Chelsea as my neighborhood, then that filter is also applied to this alert I'm setting in here. So we have a filter on the page itself that says that total docs has to be greater than 0, but then we also have a neighborhood as Chelsea. So if I go in here and select another neighborhood instead, and click this visual, then we now have another neighborhood. So that's important, that all the slicing and dicing you do on your data, that is also inherited on the alert that you're creating. And in here, I can select the measures that I have. In this case, I only have the average occupancy, but I could have more in my visual. And then I can have a selection of the different conditions that we have. So I can see that it becomes greater than, or becomes less than, or changes from. We don't have the full list, but as you'll see in a few seconds, we can go in and edit the alert that we create. So if we just want to say becomes less than, yeah, let's just keep it at 10.53%. That's fine. We're going to change it anyways. And then when I create this alert, I can say, okay, should it be an email or should it be a Teams notification? And then I have to select which workspace I'm going to save this as and what's going to be the name. So let's call this SQL bits. If I can type 2024. And as you can see here, this is not something we had from the beginning. So by default now, when you create an alert in Power BI, then we assume that this is actually an alert that you want activated. So it's going to start immediately if I don't uncheck this start my alert. So when I click create alert, then we are now going to create an item in Fabric that we call a reflex item. So that's basically, that was what you saw James show you, and that is basically the, let's say, the physical thing of Data Activator. That's what you're working with. And it says it takes a few moments, so hopefully that's not minutes. And once it's done, then I have the option now. It's created. Your alert is running, and you can test, customize, or stop it in Data Activator. So I can click View Alert, and then it opens this reflex item. And now you will see the exact same interface as you saw with James with the streaming data. So whether Data Activator is working with streaming data or Power BI data, it's the exact same experience. And I'm using the Wi-Fi, which maybe is a bad idea.
While we wait for the Wi-Fi, I'll just mention that what's going on under the hood here when we create an alert on Power BI data is Data Activator will just poll your Power BI data. Right now it's hourly, so every hour it just looks at your Power BI data and then converts that into a snapshot. So what you get is it converts your data into an event stream, basically. So you get one event every hour, which has the current values of all the measures in your report, and then you can then define alerts on that data using exactly the same system that I just showed you. But it looks like we might have some Wi-Fi issues here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So I think what you're saying is that, okay, the system's told you something's wrong, and you want to feed back the fact that, okay, you've acknowledged the alert and you're working on it. So one great way that you might want to do that is to hook Data Activator up to a ticketing system, right? So you can, if our Wi-Fi comes back, you can use our Power Automate integration to cause Data Activator to log a ticketing in a ticketing system when an alert, when a problem like the one that you were just describing happens, and then you can use the ticketing system to do all of that management. So you can change the status of the ticket that it logs to in progress. Yeah, and something else you can also do, incidentally, is feed events back into Data Activator. So, for example, once you've actioned the problem, you can actually then use the same Power Automate integration that you use to connect it to the ticketing system to send a problem resolved event back into Data Activator, so you can track the resolution as well. Yep.
Yeah, so now I got connection here again. So this is the alert that I created. So it says average occupancy becomes greater than 10.5%. And now I don't see a lot of data in here, and that's because the default selection here is the last 30 days of data, and I just started loading data a few minutes ago. So if I want to see more data, then I can go in and do custom, or I can see latest 15 minutes, and then I will actually see some more data at some point. So if you want to see this like more real time on what is happening and the alerts that you define that James also showed you, you will, if okay, it's you will see the actual data in here. Yeah.
All right. Now, Lars, why don't you tether to my phone? There's the name of my phone and the password. Yeah. And okay, while we wait for our network to come back, I'm hoping maybe some of you guys have some questions. Yeah. Yeah.
So the question was?
The question was, yeah, so I mentioned earlier that right now for Power BI data, it polls the data hourly, and then the question was, is that configurable? So it will be. So where we're going with this is we want to trigger it off a data refresh, because if you've got import mode data, and most data is import mode at the moment, obviously the right time to poll it is when it changes, and that's when it refreshes. So what we'll be doing in due course, I don't have a date for it, is triggering it off the refresh. So that's number one. And then of course, if you do have direct link data or direct query data, in that case, yes, of course, you want to be able to specify a polling frequency, and that's on the roadmap as well. So that is coming. I can't say exactly when, but it's fairly high up on our roadmap. Yep. Not yet, but it is coming as well.
Let's repeat the question. Okay. So for people online.
Sorry, forgive me. Yeah, so the question was, instead of having a hard-coded value like I showed in the demo, is it possible for that to be a variable? And the answer is not yet, but again, it's coming. What we're working on is that instead of putting a hard-coded value in there, you'll be able to put the value of a property, which can be another property on your object, so that you can have variable thresholds.
This value here, in this case.
Exactly, and you know, a great use case for that might be that in my bicycles example, for example, perhaps the threshold for the number of bikes will vary, as you say, depending on the day of week, or perhaps the neighborhood. I care much more about some neighborhoods than others, and so I want to set my threshold differently per neighborhood. So if you set up your data so that you can have a property on your data with a threshold in it, then yes, you'll be able to specify that property value as your threshold. Yeah.
But what you can also do on the same data stream coming, you can create a lot of triggers, and then you could have at least, if you know that you have your property of day of week, then you could say on Monday, then it's this rule. So there are different. I don't know how many triggers can we create. Do we have a limit?
No limit on the number of triggers. No. There's a limit on the number of artifacts at the moment, which is, I think, 20 per org. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. So this, I can go in here and then I can say create a trigger. So each trigger, we'll come back to your question in a second. So each trigger will have some input data, but that in this case it could be this input coming from my Power BI report, basically my DAX query, and then the detection, the rules, should it be above or below or between or whatever, can be different, and then my action can be different. So if I would like to in this case, each action here is to send an email or send a Teams message, and it will only do one thing. If you want to do more, then you could do a Power Automate action, and then it could do whatever you like. But if you want both an email notification and a Teams message, then you would need to create 2 triggers. Yeah. Yeah, so the question is if you can make like the output, the action dynamic based on the input.
Yes, and the answer is yes, that's already possible today. So in that recipient column for the action, you can specify a property value. So it's a great example. You've got a different manager for every neighborhood. You want the mail to go to that manager. But now, one thing we're working on, now if you want to do that today, you do have to do a little bit of finagling, because what you have to do is somehow get your manager data into Data Activator, right? Now, the feature that we've just released, and this became available on Monday, in fact, is you can now trigger Data Activator alerts of tables in Power BI. And so what that means is if you create a Data Activator alert of a Power BI table, just imports every one of your dimensions and measures as a property into Data Activator. And so if you've got a table in Power BI, which has Neighborhood Manager as one of the columns, then yes, it will import it, and then you can set the manager as your recipient, and then send an alert to the different managers. So that's fresh off the presses.
Okay, let me finish this demo here. Just want to show you one other thing you can do with this data coming in. So now we said that this average occupancy should be greater than 10.5%, which may be relevant, but you may want to have a more advanced rule. And one of the rules that you can define here in Numeric is that there is a lot of difference. So if it exits a range, so if it comes either below or above the range, then you can have a trigger. So if we have If we would like to be alerted when there are too few bikes or too many bikes, then we can say, okay, if the number of average occupancy is below 20 or above 80, then I will get an alert. And then again, for each of them, I can do it each time, number of times, stays that, or add a filter. So you can create very, very complex rules. And coming back to my initial introduction, doing all this manually would take a lot of time and probably a big calculator or spreadsheet to to do the logic. Okay, let me move into a different environment here and show you how to create a Power Automate action. And for this Power Automate action, the data that we are looking at, it is not really important, but the important thing is what it can do and what can happen. So I will just create a trigger on this chart. And I just keep everything default, and I don't want to start the trigger, and I call this SQL bits here. Oh, it's not spelled correct. That doesn't matter. So now it's creating, and what I want to show you here is that I have a SharePoint list, and I think probably most of you have heard about Power Automate or have worked with it yourself, and you can do not everything, but almost everything with Power Automate. So what I have here is I have a SharePoint online list with a title, with a data activator input, total observations, an insert time, and then I can add columns as well. So right now it's empty. So I'm just showing that I'm a magician, nothing in my sleeves. And then what I want to do is, based on the data that's coming in, I would like to have a title. I would also like to get some input from my Data Activator action. And then in this case, it's a custom input for this Data Activator input, and then total observation, which is something that is coming from my data. And then just to prove that it's happening now, I have this insert time. So going into edit this alert, then going down to the act here, I don't have any custom actions right now. I have email and I have Teams message. And in order to create a custom action, I don't know if you can see it, but it's grayed out here, then I need to go into the ribbon up here and then say create. And once I create this custom action, I have to go through 4 steps basically. I have to give it a name. So we will call this SQL bits Power Automate. And here, the next step, I can add input. So if I would like to be able to type something for this reusable Power Automate action, so in one trigger, I would like this to say, hello world. In another one, I would like to say, hello James, and so on. Then I can use this as dynamic input. So I will, I'll call this custom input, and then I add it. And the third thing I have to do is copy this connection string. So this is the thing that is used in the trigger in my Power Automate. So when I click copy, it's being copied, and then I can create flow in Power Automate. So now I open Power Automate, and it's this nice GUI tool that we see here. So my input here is when a Data Activator trigger fires, and I need to add my input here, so my connection string is pasting that in here. And I'm not very familiar with this new designer, but let's see if it works. So my action here should be to insert something in a SharePoint online list. So I can say create item. And actually, I forgot one thing, but we will fix that in a second. So create item. And here I need to select, this is Power Automate, so which side? It's this side. What is the list name? It's Data Activator demo. And then it comes down to my advanced parameters, and I can say show all. So now I see all my input. So the title here can be Data Activator. And then my input value, that will be, if I go back to my item here, that will be this custom input. And in order to use that, then I need to use some special Power Automate syntax, and it's gonna be this one. So I have to go in here and then add a function, dynamic content here. This is also so documented, so it's not something unique. So it says trigger body, which is a Power Automate function, custom properties, and then custom input. That was the name of my custom input in this case. I click add. And then the number of total observations. I have not added that to my my action yet, so I cannot add it yet, but that I have to come back to that. And then my insert time is also going to be a function, and that's going to be UTC now. And then I click save. And once it is saved, I go back, and now my custom action has been created. So I can click done. And then in my action now, I can actually select a custom action. And once I've selected this, then my custom action here can see I've done this before, hello world from Data Activator, and then I can add additional information. And this additional information, that is content that I have defined in my properties. And when I created this property, I had this total observations, which is the input from my Power BI report. So I select this, and then if I go back to my Power Automate object and say show all, and then add this total observations, then again I need to use this Power Automate context syntax, dynamic content, and add this. So here you see again trigger body, custom properties, and total observations, and click add and save. And then if the demo guys are with me today, then I can send a test alert. It worked earlier today, so now it has sent a test alert. So what this does is it's triggering this Power Automate flow, and then in a few seconds, hopefully we will see a row in our SharePoint list with I think it normally comes automatically here.
Hey.
So hello world from Data Activator 62, and yeah, just now. So this actually proves what you can do. And yeah, as I said, with Power Automate, you can do everything, basically.
We've got 200 connectors that come with Power Automate. So name your system. Power BI can probably connect to it. You can call a REST API. We've got a REST API connection. So really, you can drive actions in pretty much any system you want using the Power Automate integration.
With that, then let's jump back to our presentation. We don't have much more content. So this is what we saw, and we saw the Power Automate. So just to summarize the key points here. So with Data Activator, you will actually be able to be more actionable with your data and drive actions automatically. And if you don't tell your boss how you're doing this, then you can just say that you spend a lot of time doing it. No, but this can actually be very valuable and has been like a request for Power BI for many years at least, to be able to have more alerting capabilities. And as you saw, we have defined some complex alert conditions. So it's basically just your imagination that is the limit to how complex you wanna make it. Today, you can connect to event streams and Power BI, and as James said, KQL database is coming soon, and we also have more sources in the pipeline. And the output or actions today is emails, Teams, and Power Automate flows.
All right. How much time do we have?
3
minutes. Any questions in the last 3 minutes? Yes. Yes.
So you want to send an email to someone who does not have Power BI?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so the question was, does the recipient of an email from a Power BI alert need to be a Power BI user? The answer is no, they don't have to be a Power BI user. They can be anyone in your org. Yeah. Yeah.
So the question is if there will be more actions in as an action in Data Activator.
The answer is yes. So we're going to be baking Data Activator into just about every Fabric experience. So you'll see over the coming months that this experience where you can, from somewhere within Fabric, say, hey, I want to set an alert if X happens and then do Y, is going to become very common within Fabric. And in terms of the actual actions you'll be able to drive, one of the things that we're looking at, and I was speaking with Flavio earlier about this, is using Data Activator to help with Fabric orchestration. So what we see today is that people run their ETL jobs usually on a schedule, and when things go wrong, there has to be complicated retry logic that has to be baked in, and very often this ends up involving writing code. So what we're looking to do with Data Activator is to move to a model where, number one, your jobs can be run on an event-driven basis. So you run your jobs when they need to happen rather than just on a schedule. That can help save you costs, and it can also make your data more timely. And then number two, you can have that logic around retries baked into a Data Activator rule. So think about a rule, for example, a simple rule: if this job fails more than 3 times in an hour, then I want to kick off another job to rectify the problem that's just occurred. So you can easily see how, with a no-code rule in Data Activator, you could very easily encode that. And so what we have in mind is that you'll be able to use an event stream, which is essentially anytime something interesting happens in Fabric, that will generate an event, and then you can use Data Activator to operate on those events. So this is brand new. It's something we've just started working on, and you're going to be hearing a lot more about that over the coming months. Yep.
We are on time.
And that,
so if you have more questions, then come us to us.
All right. Awesome. Thanks very much, everyone. Cheers.